Hey now, welcome to episode 5 of CRV 123. In this episode, we're going to start looking at how to assemble your steering knuckle. In previous episodes, we've covered how to remove your steering knuckle, how to remove your hub, how to disassemble the components of your steering knuckle. If you haven't watched those videos, you may need it for this, for whatever project you're working on. Go back, check my video list. They're there for your use. But in this episode, we're going to talk about how to reassemble it. And one of the things we're going to cover, I've promised in my videos, I'm going to show you things, warts and all, mistakes I made. Keep in mind, this is the first time I had ever worked on a car in my entire life. And after watching YouTube videos, I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. And that's the problem with some of the YouTube channels that you see out there. They make it look easy. They tell you you can do it with household tools. You don't have to go and buy any tools. Well, not really. And if it's your first time doing this, it ain't that easy. You're going to make mistakes. And so I'm going to show you the mistakes I made. This is kind of a real look at what you could be getting into when you start working on cars. Now, I don't want this to dissuade you. I continue to work on cars. You just understand that it's, you have some hurdles to jump over. This is all about learning, and part of learning is making mistakes. So let's get into it, starting with the bluegrass. Okay, so the next step is to essentially get yourself a bearing press. So that's an OEM Honda bearing that I'm going to press into the steering knuckle. Okay, so I had to come back and record something because I forgot to mention this. The bearing that you're looking at there, the Honda OEM bearing, the brown side goes to the inside of the steering knuckle, and that's important because that's part of your ABS setup that has a magnetic strip or a band inside that the ABS sensor uses to detect whether or not you've just slammed on the brakes. So there's a dot on the black band side. That dot has to face outward, has to face the part of the steering knuckle where you're going to press the hub in. Black dot or white dot on black band faces out to the street. The brown side faces in to the interior of the car, inside of the steering knuckle. In fact, if you don't get an OEM bearing, just you got to be careful. Always go to your Honda service manual, and if you don't have one, get one and read those instructions. You have to make sure that you're orienting it in the correct position. I have no idea if CRVs came without ABS. This is my CRV. It has ABS. This is what I had to do. And these are the parts to the bearing press kit that I have. I bought it on Amazon. I'll put a link below. But you may be able to, again, borrow or rent these from your local tool or AutoZone type store, AutoZone, O'Reilly's, Advanced Auto. So here I'm just test fitting the bearing. I'm making sure that it's starting in straight. I'm picking the end caps from the kit that the back one, the one you're seeing right there, has to be large enough that it's not going to get in the way of the bearing as it gets pressed in. And the other one has to be the perfect size. It has to be basically the size that matches closest to the bearing itself so that it's not pressing on the inner part of the bearing. It's pressing on the race, the outer part of the bearing. If you use an end cap right there that presses only on the inner part of the bearing, you're going to destroy your bearing. You're going to have to buy a new one. You're going to have to start over. And I'm making sure that it's going in straight here. And even if it's a little bit off, this is such a wide part that it's going to correct itself. But you definitely want to start as straight as possible. And I'm ratcheting it down at that point, and I think the inner bolt thing started to spin, so I have to go grab an adjustable, use that to make sure it doesn't spin, and then finally get it seated. You'll know when it's properly seated and bottoms out. It can't go any further, so the sound changes, the resistance changes, and then you just go ahead like I'm doing here and start disassembling the bearing press. So I've sped this up quite a bit. It took a while because I was trying to be extra careful, but you don't need to see all that. But anyway, here it is. It's done. Only one thing left to do at this point, and that is to take out my OEM Honda snap ring that I got. I think it came with the bearing, and and put that in place with my snap ring pliers. I left a link in my last video to these pliers, but I'll leave it here again as well. You put it in, you tap it home with that screwdriver. Do not tap on the bearing. Be very careful here. It probably wouldn't hurt the bearing if you just hit it once or twice gently, but you don't want to take that risk. You don't want to do this job again. And there it is. Now, ball joints. My God, what a nightmare I had with these. First ball joint I tried was a TRQ Chinesium ball joint. And here I'm picking the ball joint press components. I'll leave a link to the kit that I have below. Again, this is something you can rent from your local auto store. I like to have my own for these things, for these jobs. So I picked the right cup so that the ball joint could move freely into that big cup, and then the top of the actual ball joint press fits snugly and perfectly at the top of the ball joint. And here I am carefully pushing it in, not realizing that the ball joint had gone in an angle. That's partly because this TRQ component has an angled tapered top, which was too tapered, and partly because this is my first time doing it. These are the kinds of mistakes you're going to make. So I pressed the ball joint out, and to my horror, once I got the ball joint out, the surface had become knurled and divoted with my mistake, and I had to spend the next, hour with a file, sandpaper, carefully removing all the burrs from the inside of where you pressed the ball joint. Second one, got it from AutoZone. Again, from China. This one I started pressing in, and one of the themes that you're going to see on my channel, and you certainly see it on, I love Uncle Tony's Garage, is that aftermarket parts these days suck. They really suck. You want to get OEM for critical components if you can, and I don't think I could find a ball joint for the steering knuckles on the CRV Gen 2. If you guys know of a source for OEM ball joints, please let me know in the comments below, but I could not find it. I can't remember if it came with, you had to buy a new steering knuckle or whatever, but here I am pressing in this cheap Chinese thing that I got at AutoZone, and I'm doing it very carefully so that I don't make the same mistake I made last time. And clearly I'm not paying attention to where this thing is on the camera, but there I moved it back, and I'm getting closer. It's seated. I think I've done a great job. It looks like it's all the way in. The only thing left to do is put in the snap ring that came with the ball joint. So there it is. Problem: I couldn't get the snap ring into the groove. It wouldn't fit into the groove. So I thought, well, maybe I didn't seat it all the way. Maybe I made a mistake. And what I did next was I tried to basically press it in just a little further, and that didn't work. And no matter what I tried, basically, that snap ring would not go in. And I realized, you know what? It's not going in because this is a piece of crap part. And it's not. It was not designed to specification for the Honda steering knuckle, despite the fact that it said it was. So I wound up pressing this ball joint out, throwing it away. I didn't, I could have gotten a replacement at AutoZone. Why bother? Why bother getting a replacement if the replacement probably isn't going to fit either? So this is why you go for quality components if you can, especially with something as critical as this and you don't want to do it again. So the third one I tried was from Moog. Now Moog came with its own set of issues. You have to orient the Moog part with one part facing the outer part of the ball joint, the other part facing inward. And here I've marked in white the inner part so that I don't make the mistake of pressing it in incorrectly. There's a proper orientation. So be careful when you get ball joints. Make sure you're aware of whether or not they have snap rings. Make sure you know whether or not there's a proper orientation to them. And then, do all those things so you don't, again, have to do this twice. Now, here I am pressing in the Moog ball joint, being as careful, again, as possible so that I don't screw this one up. This is the third time I've done this. And of course, you're going to have to do this on the other side, right? You've got two steering knuckles. You're going to have to do this with both. And so here I am pushing the Moog one home. It's in. It's finished. There's no snap ring with this one, I don't think. And it looks like I'm good to go. My God, was I glad to get that part of the job over with. Now, here's a critical step, your dust shield. It's painted, it's nice, looks brand new. You don't want to forget to put it on at this point, because after this, you're going to press in the hub. And the hub is press in. So if you forget to put the dust shield on now and you press in your hub, guess what? You're either going to have to ride without a dust shield or press your hub out and hope you do it carefully enough that you don't screw everything up. So do yourself a favor. Put your dust shield on now. So here I am. I've got new screws. They're Honda OEM screws. You remember in the last video, those things, they completely rusted out, and I had to basically cut in a new slot for a flathead screwdriver just to get the things out. And there it is. It's done. The dust shield is on. Okay, now we're at the final step. This is an OEM steering hub that I'm unboxing here. And again, I'll go faster so we don't have to sit through all the boring stuff. But that thing was beautiful. And you want OEM parts in this case because, look, this is a tough job. You don't want to pull your steering knuckle off again to have to do this job, over and over again. Here I'm test fitting. And so this is an OEM Honda hub. And again, I'm going to use my bearing press kit. It's a press fit part. And you're basically you're basically choosing a back part that presses up against the inner part of the bearing this time, the inner race. So this is different from what we've done in the past. You definitely want to choose a backing that fits that inner kind of circle of your bearing, because that is, when you press the hub in, it's going to have friction against that inner part, and you want to make sure you're supporting the back of the inner ring so that you don't damage your bearing as you push the hub in. So here I'm carefully assembling the parts of the bearing press to get the hub in. I've got the back cap that's properly sized. I'm putting in the master bolt, and then I'm choosing a front cap that basically fits snugly against the front of that hub, and then hand tightening in the final bolt there on the front to get ready for pressing it in. And again, be really careful here. Try and start out as straight, eyeball it as straight as you can. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm adjusting back and forth until I'm comfortable and everything looks about as straight as I can get it. And then I'm using a long kind of cheater bar ratchet type thing. I can never remember what these things are called. 1/4 inch basically. And I'm slowly, remember this video is sped up. On one end, I've got adjustable to keep the back bolt from spinning. And on the other end, I'm just rotating that cheater bar, slowly pressing the hub in until it seats. And again, you'll know when it seats because it bottoms out. The resistance increases to the point where you're not making any progress. And at that point, the job is done. Your hub is now assembled inside the bearing, and you've got a steering knuckle that is essentially almost completely assembled with the exception of the ABS sensor. And here I'm backing out the press to disassemble the whole thing. And there it is. It's finished. The steering knuckle's painted, the hub's in, the bearing's in, the ball joint's in. Man, does that thing look good. That almost looks like a new Honda component right there. And I'm just checking to make sure it spins freely, and of course it does. There it is. You're practically done with a steering knuckle. You should feel good about this. Do the other side, be careful, and you're done. Oh, you made it to the end. That's awesome. Listen, I'm Doc. I'm the one who's, the voice behind these videos. And I really appreciate you taking the time to actually watch the whole thing. That's fantastic. If you've got time, if you want to, if you like the video, hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the bell button so you get notified of new videos when I put them up. I'm going to try and do one a week. And I'm going to do a bunch of Instagram stuff, so make sure you follow me there and on Twitter. Instagram's going to be the shorter stuff. I don't have any merchandise yet. I'm planning to as the channel grows. If I succeed, I'll get some merch. For now, if you really want to help me in another way, you like these videos enough, I'm going to put links to my books in the description of the video. I'm a science fiction author in my spare time as well, so I'm juggling a lot of balls. But anyway, I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you at the next one. Hey, do me a favor and turn this junk off. I don't know how to deal with tech.